Hello everybody and welcome back to another indie comic review! Today we are looking at Cyberp0p control theory. And as you can probably guess with the cyber in the title, yes, this is a cyberpunk futuristic type of story. So basically, we're in the future now. We have cybernetics, cool. And our story starts off with this corporation that is doing some shady things. And it turns out that their emails have been intercepted and redirected towards a server. So they're hiring an assassin to go take care of this problem. Now the girl behind the server is actually a paraplegic named Rachel. I do not know why she was looking into these emails, but she lives in a fairly shady apartment full of a bunch of drug dealers and gang members, etc, etc. Anyway, they hire this cybernetic woman named Yuki to assassinate her. Yuki shoots her straight in the gut and then blasts through the window to finish the job, but her gun jams and she thinks that is a sign, that is fate telling her that she should not kill Rachel and that they're destined to be friends, I guess. So obviously, this bitch is crazy. And after the fallout of almost assassinating Rachel, she ends up killing a bunch of other gang members in the complex. So he sends even more people after them and they're on the run. Can these two unlikely friends work together, and can we unravel the mystery of why the heck Rachel had these emails sent to her server? What's going on behind the scenes? Well, you'll be happy to know that you can read this comic yourself right now. It is available on both Amazon as well as being on Global Comics. So you can read the story that I read and prepare yourself for when they eventually have their newest campaign for the next issue, which will be continuing the story. Links are in the description, but let's actually get into the nitty-gritty of the review. This is where we bring out the hammer. As an outline, I don't really mind the story for Cyberp0p. There are some interesting parts of it. There is like the bones to make a functional story out of this. However, the actual writing in the comic itself, the actual words on the page, tends to be all over the place. There's so many scenes that are like way too wordy, and for comics you really want to tell the story with as little words as possible. Like, you want to be very concise with everything that you have your characters say. But instead you'll just have characters go off on tangents. They'll just mention something that doesn't matter at all, and it's distracting the reader from the story rather than enhancing the story. Like, why is Vic bringing up that like North and South Korea are now one big Korea? Like, why is he bringing this up? Do I need to know that? Are they going to Korea? No, I don't think they are. Maybe it would make sense to talk about his war history to like explain why he's such a good fighter, but he doesn't fight at all. He just immediately gets killed, so why does it matter? But to get someone to actually enjoy a comic, or really any story, you need to have their attention. If you're constantly losing their attention, it's going to be a problem. Now furthermore, the two main characters, well, the main character, Rachel, kind of feels like as much of a cardboard cutout as you could make a main character. She's kind of just being dragged throughout the story, no agency. Rachel doesn't really seem to care that she lives in this shady complex. I mean, like, a guy bleeding out the neck comes out the door and all she can think about is how, oh man, he got blood all over my shirt. Which I guess is kind of a self-absorbed way to introduce a character, but I guess it's fine if the point is to show that she's deadened to all of this blood and gore and crime that's being done. Is that guy okay? Hey, wait a minute, she was wearing glasses at the beginning of this comic. How is she able to later fire a gun with perfect accuracy despite not wearing her glasses? You fake nerd, you never needed those glasses to begin with. Is there really any reason for her to buddy up with the assassin lady? It kinda doesn't seem like they have any chemistry whatsoever. I know that they're supposed to have some sort of chemistry, but I don't feel it. The reason for Yuki to establish a connection with Rachel in the first place. It all has to do with the fact she thinks it's fate that they're supposed to be friends, I guess. Because she is quirky cyborg lady, so that's just how she works now. I feel like it could be more convincing of why she believes it's fate, because she aims at this girl's stomach and then is just shocked that it actually does hit her in the stomach. She's like, oh, I was aiming for your head, but like, were you? That's not what the panel shows. And even if she wasn't aiming for her head, that shot to the stomach would have still killed her. She was still bleeding out, so you didn't even have to break through the window and finish her off with a headshot. You could have just left and let her bleed out. Maybe if you wanted it to be more convincing of why she thinks this is lucky or some sort of act of fate, you could have had her actually aiming for Rachel's head, and then maybe at the last moment Rachel turns and, I don't know, clips her ear or something. That would have been a little bit more convincing to be like, oh, that's like a 1 in a million chance that would have happened. It must be fate. I don't know what the thought process with putting her in the wheelchair is either, like, for the story. It seems to only weigh her down as a character. Unless you're going to introduce that she gets cybernetic legs later, it seems like there's no real point to her being in a wheelchair. I mean, through half of the story, she doesn't even have the wheelchair. She's just being carried by Yuki around from place to place. Literally, just dragging her through the whole story. She doesn't want to be here. Now, from the description of this comic, I know that Yuki is supposed to be like a former pop idol, but she doesn't really have a proper backstory in this comic. We just kind of get hints of like what she used to be without going really that far in depth to what exactly happened, which is a shame because I do feel like if she had a proper backstory in this first issue, that could have helped when it came to being more attached to the characters. Really kind of neither of them have a proper backstory as to why they are where they are. Yuki is like the closest thing that this comic has to a personality, because she does not act like how you would imagine a stereotypical assassin would act. She's very emotional, very lol so random. She's kind of silly and kind of crazy. So it's a little disappointing we don't get really much backstory into her life to make her maybe more of a grounded character or more relatable character. Now, apparently Yuki is sensitive about being referred to as a robot rather than a human. She still sees herself as human despite all the cybernetics. Even the main character, Rachel, like, refers to her as though she is a robot and not human anymore, which is really confusing because Rachel also personified another house robot as being her best friend. But then she's really confused, like, wait, Yuki, you have a name? Aren't you just a robot? Bitch, you named your own robot Glitchy. Why are you confused that Yuki would have a name? Anyway, what I was saying before is like the bones of the comic are not bad per se. The real issue that I had with the comic is actually just the scene-to-scene writing, the actual execution. And you know, part of that is, like I was saying before, the tangential conversations where you have these girls talk about stuff that doesn't matter and it just distracts from things that do matter, so it doesn't hit as well. Part of it, I'm sure, is because Rachel is not really much of a character to begin with. She's kind of just dragged around in this story and doesn't really contribute much. Now, there is one scene where Rachel does get into the first real argument with Yuki, where she's like, I don't want you to take me anywhere, you know, get away from me, you metal freak. Kind of feels like she's having this reaction a little bit late, but sure. And then the way that Yuki gets her to, like, stop having a mental breakdown is by berating her. Some real drill sergeant logic here. That's not how you make girls feel better.
Yeah, what?
Loser! You're a loser! Are you feeling sorry for yourself? Baby want a bottle? A big dirt bottle?
Why are you yelling at me?
Well, I'm trying to be your coach.
I don't understand how this scene would bring them closer at all. If anything, it would be like a really bittersweet scene. Like, oh, you don't have to like me, but I'm the only one keeping you safe right now, so you better suck it up and like be appreciative. And she, you know, she wipes away her tears. She's like, fine, I don't like you, but you're right. I have to put up with it. But instead, you know, they act like this is a bonding moment. Like, I don't know why she's smiling. I don't know what about anything she said that would make you feel better. Maybe there's just some sort of disconnect between writer and artist with what they were actually aiming for. Like, maybe the idea of Yuki is that she just wants a friend, and so she's trying to force it, even though this person doesn't like her. And you can absolutely do something really fun with a character trait like that. Not like this. Now, one other thing that I will critique as far as like character writing in particular, I found Vic's death to be very confusing. Quite frankly, the reason why he shows up after Yuki fails her assassination attempt, it seems to be as though he showed up to save her. Oh no, someone tried to kill that girl that I was trying to get to be my drug runner. Hilarious, by the way, that he would pick a girl in a wheelchair to be a drug runner. And I'm not saying that these gang members or Vic were necessarily set up to be good people, but of all ways to kill off bad guy characters, are you really gonna kill them because they showed up to defend someone in their complex? That's a bit of an odd choice, you know? Because you're kind of making it so that he goes out as good guy Vic. What's that one saying that they use is like, oh man, the last moments of your life is when we find out who you really are. And then your Vic is standing up for wheelchair girl. Anyway, I think I've ranted enough about the character writing on more of the technical side of things when it comes to this comic. I did have some issue occasionally figuring out which word balloon to read just because of how the placement was. But in general, when you're reading manga, top to bottom takes priority when it comes to reading order, while as when you're reading American comics, it's left to right that takes priority when it comes to reading order. But in addition to all of that, it also matters where your eye is flowing from panel to panel. So you want to organize the panels in such a way that your eye will naturally flow from one speech bubble to the next, to the next, to the next. And there were just a couple of moments throughout the comic where my eyes were not naturally going to the correct position on the page. There was one sentence that bothered me enough that I actually highlighted it in red. Okay, so the sentence is, I want them buried so deep that nobody even knew they existed. I want them buried so deep that nobody even knew they existed. It sounds like you have Frankensteined two completely different sentences and just you stitched them together, but they don't belong. That sentence I read quite a couple times. Anyway, guys, that is Cyberp0p. Control theory of the Cyberp0p, in fact. You can read it right now on Global Comics as well as on Amazon. Feel free to form your own opinions after you have read it, and let me know your own thoughts on this comic down below in the comment section. That's what it's there for. As usual, like the video, subscribe if you'd like to see more comic reviews from me. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
Program restart.